Hello everyone and welcome to this Libra full moon reading. The full moon is happening today, roughly around 2:30 in the afternoon Eastern time, so I'm close to the peak of the moon as I'm recording this. And this is on March 28th of 2021. And we only have one full moon in Libra, and remember the full moon is about this culmination point. It's where the most is revealed by the light of the moon in what is typically a dark area of our life. And what I mean by dark is just we don't have very deep understanding of the mechanics of things or an understanding of how things turned out as they did. It's just a real culmination point, like something is revealed that, okay, I have the information now, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to do something with it. Even if it's tumbling it around inside yourself, it's still, there is an action point that is called up because you're given that some deeper information. And with Libra is an air sign. It's ruled in astrology by the planet Venus. So it carries this really adept sense of beauty and creativity. People with strong Libra energy are very magnetic. It's all about balance and harmony, and particularly in relationships. So I want you to think about, with this Libra full moon, what part of your life right now is kind of, the imagery I was seeing was tied up in knots. It's kind of like a tumbleweed sort of image that I'm getting. So it doesn't feel huge to me. It just feels like, geez, this isn't as settled as it could possibly be, And I get a sense of like balls being in the air, or I don't know, it's an unsettledness. It's just everything feels knotted up, and it feels tight then, not only for you, but potentially for another person or a set of people. So the Sabian symbol for the peak of this full moon is Libra 9. And it reads as follows: 3 old masters hanging on the wall of a special room in an art gallery. And when I was tapping in with this symbol, what I'm feeling is this overwhelming energy of very classic elegance and just timeless kind of wisdom. It feels to me like just anything you can think that you would classify as classic. And by that, I hold the utmost reverence for that term. It's a real sense of just something that is never going to go out of fashion. It's something you can always rely on. And these things they're really quite simple, and they're sturdy pieces of wisdom. They're not built cheaply, And also we build that wisdom and take that wisdom as our own from a place of really being, going through experiences that help us to integrate it. It's like well-earned wisdom. But those things in your life, whether they're beliefs or values that you hold, or just strategies that you have, particularly for situations that feel bound up, like I was talking about, like a piece of tumbleweed that's just rolling around, but it's not really getting anywhere. And it's this very simple classic wisdom that I think wants to come forward. And there's a very strong vibe of creativity that I'm feeling also, because it mentions 3 old masters. And this is Libra 9, which is 3 times 3. So it's got like 333 energy. It's very potent with this energy of creativity. That's what the 3 in numerology is about, is bringing in the creativity. But from a higher place. It's from like an ascended master kind of a place. And that's why I continue to feel it's a classic piece of wisdom, okay? So select the card at the beginning of the video, or more than one that caught your eye. And yeah, I'm very excited because I have this new way, I have this new cubby system for my cards, and so I use a dowsing chart now to figure out which decks want to come forward, and I'm enjoying that just change in a very simple part of the process for readings for me. But you're getting this energy very fresh, and I haven't memorized obviously which card decks are in which cubbies. They're all labeled by these numbers, and so my chart shows the numbers. And this is the creativity I'm talking about with this full moon. It's very simple, small things, but it can make a profound difference in being more efficient and just an overall feeling of being more balanced. I don't know any other way to put it. It's much more balanced. And as that example, I used to have the cards laid out on a surface, and I would have to, it was no big deal, but I had to take the time to go through one by one with my pendulum, which deck wants to come forward for this. And so it's just an example of this energy that I'm feeling. It's all interconnected. So fairy energy is very strong with this reading, because two of the decks have, one is the Fairy Forest deck, and I'll just start with that. That's the first card up, is from the Fairy Forest deck. And this is Freyr, and by far, this is the card that I pull most often from this deck. So it's a very comfortable energy for me. This is card number 23, and I'll show it to you in a second. It says, for Freyr, abundance, peace, and contentment. And I really want to focus on that idea of contentment, because I really feel that people don't understand, and therefore they don't use that word very much. That to me is the ultimate in life on earth, because contentment says I'm really enjoying, truly savoring what I have in my experience right here and right now. It doesn't mean that we won't have dreams for growth or things that we want to do or buy or learn or anything. That is a natural part of being human. That's expansion. That's why we're here. But this word of contentment came up this morning as I was watching a YouTube video. It's interesting. I'm just getting a ping on that from a woman. It's a channel called Simple Joys. She does a nice job. She's an American, but she lives in France on the island of Corsica. And she was talking to inhabitants there, and her word that she used was there's a level of contentment that they have. And it's just, it doesn't necessarily mean joy either. It's just an inner peace, and that word peace is on this card as well as the word abundance. It's a sense, it's a very settled kind of sense that wants to come through for you. So what I'm feeling is whatever this tumbleweed situation, let's call it that, because I like the lightness of how that feels. And I think tumbleweed are fun. Someday I'm going to see real tumbleweed and I'm going to enjoy it. Whatever this tumbleweed part in your life is, the key is in you really challenging yourself to find contentment within that situation. What is it about that tumbleweed portion of your life that actually brings you a sense of peace? I mean, a piece of the message is the fact that you're able to identify it, because as I'm talking about whatever this tumbleweed is in your life, I know that anybody listening to this knows what that is as soon as somebody brings it up. And so, again, full moon, full illumination. You know what this is. And there is contentment within that. The fact that you are able to identify a situation that needs some untangling, that needs some clarity, that needs the ability to bring forward just simplicity and a streamlined kind of feeling to it. That's very critical to the message here for you. Remember, this is like a classical elegance to it, and getting creative with the fact that you can find contentment within anything, within absolutely anything. But it's on you to find that. You know, like these people that this woman in the video was talking about on the island of Corsica, you know, other people who live in France had labeled or tend to label people from the island in this particular kind of way. And it's like, yeah, she's not finding, this American is not finding that with these people. In fact, she's finding them to be the reverse of that by quite a stretch. But this underlying contentment, and if you've got nothing else to start with, the feeling I'm getting from Freyr is you're able to identify it. You're able to see it. Like, look at his crown. It's these pieces that go up and out. It's like having antennae out there. And that is something to be really grateful for, that you're able, look back at your life, and when you were younger, you were not able to identify these things. You would sit at what I call sit and spin. And for a lot of us, I know I used to use alcohol to try to fill up whatever that was, because I couldn't identify whatever was making me feel a certain way. So we find things to fill up the space that's there because there's some lack of fulfillment. But it's hugely beneficial to know that there even is an issue. And then the classical elegance comes in, because it's in being able to find your way to contentment. It's the ultimate challenge, especially in those tumbleweed kind of moments, okay? Very important. Okay, card number 2 is from the Healing with the Fairies deck. And this is family harmony. How perfect for the Libra full moon. Okay, because harmony is what Libra is all about. And the thing that I'm immediately feeling is Libra gets a bad rap. Like every sign has the parts of the energy of that astrological sign that are kind of like, kind of poo-poo. Because it either can be overdone or underdone. And so Libra, when it's kind of overdone, is this energy of always being the peacemaker. So I'm getting this sense, whether when we talk about family harmony, because this is a general reading here, this is not necessarily your family, what you would, typically call your blood family. This can also be outside of that circle, to a wider circle, that people that you would consider to be like family to you. You really count on them. And I really sense this very extroverted part, really kind of overdone piece of Libra that is about the peacemaker energy, and also not being able to make a decision. Libra gets labeled that as quite often. I'm a Libra rising, and so sometimes I have those moments, and also being this peacemaker energy, and nobody's asking me to do that. It's just something that comes up within you. But to know your own boundaries of when that you're actually making it disharmony for yourself, because you're in what I call the sit and spin. You're trying to just do what makes everybody else happy, instead of really having some boundaries around yourself and your own experience to say, but what is it that makes me happy here. And nobody else is going to watch out for that. That's the thing with kind of overblown Libra energy, is there's so much effort and so much time and energy put into being a peacemaker that you're more concerned about, okay, how is that one doing and how is this one doing, and we're just going to keep everything nice and symbiotic. You just keep keep stirring the pot in a good way. There's more than one meaning for that, but it's like you keep stirring the soup so that it will keep melding, or the chili, or whatever you want to think of there. You want to keep stirring it so that nothing gets too concentrated in terms of flavors, and that can be thought of as feelings or emotions or opinions, what have you. So really, I think this tumbleweed part of your life has a lot to do with that kind of subject matter. And again, not just with who you would call your blood family, but other people you'd consider in that family kind of context. Both really not having boundaries for yourself. Again, classical, elegant wisdom. It's very simple. Not simple to do, but it is a very straightforward kind of wisdom, which is what I'm feeling with this moon. Are you so worried about everybody else that you don't pay attention to your own sense of peace within inside you, your own sense of harmony? Because honestly, that is what really helps family or those around you, especially in your closest circles, to feel a sense of peace themselves, because they feel it from you. And if they don't feel that, that's when, as the peacemaker, that Libra energy, which we all have it within us, no matter if you've got any planets in the sign of Libra, you've always got Libra energy. Are you then, it's like a trigger goes off, especially for people with strong Libra energy. A trigger goes off, oh, I have to do something here. And again, you're not paying attention to, but what is my role, my role in being the peace for myself, and how that therefore affects other people like ripples on a pond. It's just, it takes over, because you're too busy looking out here and at all those connections. And see, that's where the tumbleweed, this tangled mess, starts to appear, because it becomes all about these other connections. And yes, you're a part of those connections, but you don't have dominion over what someone else thinks and believes and how they see the world, their whole perception, the actions that they choose to take in their life. You don't have control over that. So it isn't, Libra is a very caring, nurturing kind of an energy, for sure. And the peacemaker ability comes from a really good place, but it can be overdone at times. And just ask yourself, is it really my role here to be in the middle of this tangled mess? And I know that I'm a part of it, I'm participating somehow, but is anybody asking me to play that role? And be real with yourself. The thing with the 3 old masters hanging on the wall from that Sabian symbol for this moon is the fact that we kind of have to call ourselves on the carpet. Masters do that. It's taking self-responsibility for what is my role here. And am I overstepping a bound and therefore not watching my own boundaries and what is within my control and what I need to be focused on? And there's a real sense of peace, inner peace for everybody for this full moon. So just ask yourself that, are you getting wrapped up in being a peacemaker, and maybe it's just not going, it's kind of falling on deaf ears, as they say. You know, you're trying so hard to make sure everything is all symbiotic, but that can backfire at times. And if you're not getting any uptick on it, where there's an improvement in the energy within the environment of whatever this has to do with for you, then you know, okay, that energy might be coming out of me, but it's going elsewhere. You know, and I'm not advocating to be, you know, totally navel-gazing, like not even interacting with the world, or, you know, not trying to help people. I'm not saying that. But again, Libra energy, when it's really thrust out there in a very powerful way, it wants to be the peacemaker for the world. It wants to kind of save situations and people, and it's a very strong savior kind of energy. And it can be obnoxious to other people at times. And I'm sure if that happens, those other people will give you pretty strong signals that, yeah, you're not helping here. I didn't ask you to do this. I need understand that people just like yourself have to work through things themselves. So that's a piece of it as well. Okay. The final card is from the Mystical Moments Tarot. And this is the Page of Pentacles. I love all the artwork in this deck, and it's still fairly new for me. Isn't it beautiful? It's purity. It's purity. And the Pentacles is about everyday living. This is about getting the laundry done. This is making the grocery list. This is balancing the checkbook, going to work, making the money, making a plan. You know, it's the daily life. It's tidying up the closets, that kind of thing. But there's a real sense with this deck of, you know, and of course it carries that fairy energy. It's very strong for this reading. This purity and lightness of being, that it feels like the antidote is, I feel this fairy energy so strongly of, it's just like this special magical tincture that's given to you on a silver platter, or in the folds of a beautiful, beautiful flower, you know, within those petals. It's like the fairies are just so clear, like the antidote is to assume purity. That's what they're telling me. And the page energy within the tarot, because that's part of as you climb up, it goes from 1 to 9 for each of the 4 suits within the tarot. And then you have page, knight, queen, and king. So the page is a very inexperienced kind of energy, but I liken it very much to the inner child. There's a pureness to it, and most of all, a pureness of spirit. That's what I'm feeling. Go back to the purity of spirit within you and assume it for the other person involved, or persons. Because in truth, most everybody, there is a pureness to why they're doing what they're doing. And we can't take other people out of the equation for this reading, because it's the full moon in Libra. This is about relationships. It's about connection and the harmony that's generated by that, or the disharmony. You know, it very much wants to be like honey and just flow and be smooth, and there to not be bumps. And that's not a sustainable state. There will always be bumps, but it's in your reaction to them and in your perception. And, you know, are you trying to prove someone else wrong and say what you're doing is incorrect, and I want to tell you the reasons why, and I want to put in black and white in front of you, and to assume, you know, I like what I heard from a leader recently about assume positive intent. It's the same thing as this purity. We're kind of all carrying the water jug on our back and trying to lay our roots down in different areas of life here on this planet, and trying to make a mark in our own way and contribute in some way. And we have ways of coping when it's too much, or to get ourselves motivated and extroverted and out in the world. We have ways to strategize to do that outward motion as well. It's very complicated living a human life. And so to understand that we're all coming from this pure intent. And for some people, there's a very kind of scarred past around that. And so it impacts each of us as individuals. It impacts our judgment and our ability to decide how and when and where we're going to take action. But at the end of the day, there is purity there. And just remember, for some people, it's just more scarred than perhaps for other people. Like some of you may look at my messages and be like, oh my God, get your head out of the sand. You're all Pollyanna and, always miss positivity or whatever. And yep, I've got rose-colored glasses on a lot of the time because I've found that works well in my life. But I don't have a really tragic, scarred past to deal with. And so I don't carry that. I don't know how to speak to that. But I know my ways, my strategies to get out of difficulties in life. And so that's what I feel I'm able to share. And other people who have it's being shown to me as this scarred past, they have other things to share, including viewpoints from that very scarred kind of place, because those wounds, those scars, never disappear. They're always a part of a person, and that is part of this purity. Assume purity. It's a part of them. And understand it may not be your job to try to change that other person. Because again, I'm being led back to the tumbleweed. And you might find yourself in these little situations where the two of you, or you with a group of others, or whatever it may be, are all tumbling around repeatedly. And I just keep hearing it's directly from the fairy energy that for all of us, it is about self-preservation, whether we like that or not. Even if we want to be of service and we very much want to help other people, we can really do that by finding this peace, this Libran peace that's being offered inside of ourselves, and assuming that purity for ourselves, that this is who I am and this is why I do what I do. And yes, I'm aware of it, and yes, I can make improvements along the way. But that scarred past, and to some extent we all have everybody's got a scarred past, so to speak. Even from just being birthed into this world is not a comfortable process for that little tiny human being pushed out of the birth canal or taken out or surgically removed or whatever. There is trauma involved in all of that. So just understand, please assume purity. Try to see that, because first and foremost, it will bring you peace, because that person is operating, or set of people is operating so much based on what their past has been. But they too carry that purity. We are all this fairy right here. We're all her. And the amount of peace that can bring, if you can just sit with that for a little bit, it gives off a vibration then to that person or set of people that brings a calmness to the whole situation. And that no, I'm not here to change your past. And I'm not here to water you down with my big old white can of pixie dust. I'm not here to just make everything go away. I'm here to listen, and I'm here to be witness to it, but I'm going to live in my own purity meanwhile, and I'm going to choose what feels pure and real and supportive to me. That is the very best thing you can do in those situations. It really is, because your energy vibration that you're giving out makes that other person or persons feel seen and heard. And for most, especially those with a scarred past, that is the one thing that they didn't have. So you're giving them a gift in that way. Okay, everybody. There we go with your readings. I hope you enjoy this Libra full moon. It is going to be balancing, harmonizing, and just don't forget the level of creativity can help you out as well. Get creative with your brain and how you choose to look at that tumbleweed situation. Have a good week.